For 9.3, we're going to be looking at how Gibbs free energy is related to both entropy and enthalpy, both which are temperature-sensitive processes. So with respect to entropy, remember this is going to be your delta S. This is where we're talking about the possible orientations of a chemical system. A positive delta S is thermodynamically favorable. With respect to enthalpy, so this is the internal energy of the system, or the energy of the reactants compared to the energy of the products. A negative delta H is thermodynamically favorable. So when we have a system that increases the possible orientations or interactions, and it goes from a higher energy state to a lower energy state, both of those things are going to make the overall system favorable. That means the reaction or the change that you're witnessing is going to move in the forward direction. As I mentioned, both of these are temperature dependent, so we have an overall chemical formula, equation that we can use to calculate the delta G, or the Gibbs free energy, when we have both enthalpy and entropy values. Now, this equation is going to be understood both qualitatively and quantitatively. So quantitatively, we can simply plug values into this and we can get our information. Keep in mind that the delta S sometimes is in joules, and we need that to agree with delta H, and that is typically going to be in kilojoules. So sometimes you will have to do the dimensional analysis on the entropy factor. Now this table is something that you definitely should know. And essentially what this is telling us is when things are favorable and when they are not. Now this takes into account both enthalpy and entropy. So if we look at the first insert here, we can see that a negative or less than 0 enthalpy and a greater than 0 positive entropy is favorable at all temperatures. And that makes sense, because a positive delta S is thermodynamically favorable, and a negative delta H is thermodynamically favorable. So if we have both factors being favorable, it doesn't really matter what temperature we're at. Now, if we have a positive delta H and a negative delta S, neither of those agree with the thermodynamic favorability. So this is going to be a situation where it doesn't matter what the temperature is. It's not going to be thermodynamically favorable because both enthalpy and entropy are not in their favorable orientation, or positive and negative, as they prefer to be. Now, if we look at the last two entries, we have a situation where we actually have to think about the value of the temperature and how that could affect if something is favorable or not favorable. So if we have something that is positive enthalpy and positive entropy, if we are at a very high temperature, then that means we're going to have a positive value, and then we're going to subtract another value. If this T is very large, then the large T multiplied by the entropy is going to give you a larger value than the delta H. So, for example, if you have 5 minus 10, then you're ultimately going to have a negative 5 as your answer. Negative as your final answer is going to be favorable for an overall Gibbs free energy. So the value of the temperature is going to be important when one of the identities here, enthalpy or entropy, is favorable and the other is not. Likewise, if we look at a situation where we have a favorable enthalpy, so a negative enthalpy, and a negative entropy, if we are at a very low temperature, then that's going to mean that we have a positive value here. But if we have a very negative value for the enthalpy, then that's going to work itself out. So again, the temperature factor here, at high temperature or low temperature, when one of these factors is favorable and the other is not, will have an influence if the situation occurs, or if the reaction occurs, or if the reaction will not occur. So being able to kind of think through this qualitatively is going to be a key skill. What I would recommend you do on the AP test, if they give you qualitative information, try to plug in your own information into this thing. Make up your own values, and those values hopefully can be representative of what the delta G could potentially be. Now, quantitatively, of course, if they give you values, then you can plug directly into this. And remember, a negative delta G is a favorable chemical system when we're looking at thermodynamics. Now, there is also going to be situations where we have something that is thermodynamically favorable. So that means we have a negative delta G. But it appears that the change is not happening. So in that case, we have to look at what's happening with other factors in a chemical reaction. The other factor, of course, will go back to kinetics. So the first thing, we cannot assume that the system is at equilibrium just because it's not doing anything as we observe it. The problem with this assumption, well, what if we just don't observe it long enough? Maybe eventually the concentrations will change, and then if the concentrations change, then we can say that that situation actually was not at K, EQ, or equilibrium, but in fact it was at Q, EQ, or just Q. The second thing we have to think is perhaps the kinetics of the reaction are very, very slow. So think of the change of iron rusting. Right? We've all seen cars and bikes and other pieces of metal that eventually rust. Rusting is, in fact, a thermodynamically favorable process. However, if we observe it over a short amount of time, it's going to appear that nothing is happening at all. So what we need to assume there is that the reaction is under kinetic control. It is thermodynamically favorable, but the kinetics of the reaction are really controlling the overall reaction. So, if we look at a graph of the reaction progress versus Gibbs free energy, we may see that we have a reaction that looks like this. So, this is going to be familiar for us, and what we see here is we see where our reactants would be, and we see where our products would be. And we have this peak of energy that we have to overcome. If we remember, that peak energy is called the activation energy. So what's happening in these situations where we have thermodynamic favorability, however it appears that nothing is happening? We can say that this reaction must be kinetically controlled because there could be a really high activation energy. Remember, activation energy is the energy required to overcome kind of like the inertia of the molecules. And in order to overcome the activation energy there, or to overcome the kinetic control, we have to decrease that activation energy. And what is one way that we can decrease the activation energy? We have to use a catalyst. Now remember, the catalyst itself is not going to change the position of the reactants or the products. It's simply going to decrease the activation energy. So if we look at the total Gibbs energy, whether we have a catalyst or not, the delta G for this reaction is still going to be negative. And negative means favorable. But remember, this reaction did not appear to be doing anything. So we needed to decrease the amount of kinetic control. So that way the thermodynamics have a chance to take this reaction from reactants to products. Now that is our 9.1 through 9.4 introduction video. Following these videos, there should be two of them, video 1 and video 2. You will see that there's an AP Classroom assignment labeled 9.1 through 9.4 homework. That's going to be comprised of multiple choice questions on these topics.